Just 120 seconds from now, 24 nautical miles off the coast of Venezuela, the USS Gerald R. Ford is about to confront Caracas with a level of deterrence powerful enough to send shockwaves through the 21st century. This is far more than a display of power. It is a precise, calculated move, a high-stakes play designed to remind the world that every decision carries weight and every consequence follows. But beneath the USS Gerald R. Ford's show of strength lies a serious legal and strategic dilemma. Caracas has unilaterally declared its entire 200 nautical mile economic zone a restricted military area. Yet under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, only 12 nautical miles are recognized as sovereign waters. That puts the U.S. Navy in an incredibly delicate position. It must operate carefully in international waters, asserting freedom of navigation without appearing to be the one escalating the situation. And that legal trap is only part of the problem. The physical environment is just as unforgiving. In this part of the Caribbean, the sea itself becomes an acoustic nightmare. Shifting layers of water temperature, known as thermoclines, act like invisible barriers, bending and distorting sonar signals. Even for the advanced listening systems aboard an American destroyer, it is like trying to catch a whisper inside a hall of mirrors. And hidden in that acoustic haze is the perfect ambush platform, the German-built Type 209 diesel-electric submarine. Running silently on battery power, it becomes almost ghost-like, capable of remaining motionless beneath a thermocline while using the wreck of an old cargo ship to conceal its acoustic signature. From that hidden position, the Venezuelan submarine sits less than 5 minutes from effective strike range. The danger on the surface is even more deceptive. Venezuela is not leading with warships. Instead, it puts forward a barrier of armed fishing trawlers and Coast Guard cutters in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Their goal is not direct confrontation. Their goal is to trigger an incident. If a small vessel deliberately cuts across the path of a multi-billion-dollar American warship, the U.S. captain could be dragged into an international legal and political storm. The entire mission could collapse under pressure. Venezuela calculated every angle: the law, the physics, and the media narrative. They built a problem that seemed to offer no clear answer. But they overlooked one variable, a variable flying at 30,000 feet, ready to change the entire board. That variable is a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, and it is already at work. Far below, the Venezuelan Type 209 submarine has been holding position for 48 hours. For 2 full days, its crew has remained in near-total silence, running on battery power and listening. Its mission is not to strike the carrier. Its mission is to capture something just as valuable: the unique acoustic signature of the USS Ford. A priceless piece of intelligence that could later be passed to America's rivals. The submarine waits like a ghost for the perfect moment to record its prize. But silence comes at a cost. Its batteries are running low. Soon it must snorkel, raising a small air intake above the surface to run its diesel engines and recharge. And that is the moment of greatest vulnerability. It is also the exact moment the P-8 has been waiting for. From high above, the aircraft deploys a pattern of sonobuoys, but nearby shipping traffic creates a chaotic maze of false contacts. These sensitive listening devices are not searching for the submarine itself. They are listening for something even fainter: the brief intake of air from its snorkel. Once the P-8 narrows down the submarine's location through painstaking analysis, the USS Ramage, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, makes its move. Its commander makes a difficult but calculated decision. He activates low-frequency active sonar. This is the moment the U.S. Navy turns a search into confirmation. A single bone-rattling pulse of energy surges through the water, cutting through the thermocline as if it were glass. Inside the steel hull of the Type 209, that sonar pulse is not just heard, it is felt. It slams through the submarine like a hammer striking a giant steel bell, reverberating through every frame and compartment. The acoustic pressure is so intense it can disorient the crew and disrupt sensitive electronics. That pulse is the U.S. Navy's unmistakable signal. Your concealment is gone. It is psychological pressure by design, forcing the Venezuelan commander into an impossible decision: remain silent and endure the overwhelming acoustic stress, or maneuver to escape it, revealing his exact location and ending the mission. The American message is delivered without a single word: your stealth is gone. Your advantage is gone. surface, and withdraw. With the underwater threat contained, the contest shifts to the sky. As the USS Ford continues on course, one final desperate move begins to unfold. Two Venezuelan Su-30 Mk-2 flankers, among Russia's premier air superiority fighters, race toward the carrier group. They are armed with Kh-31 anti-ship missiles, weapons capable of reaching the Ford in less than 4 minutes. At this point, the legal chess game is over. This is a direct military challenge. The lead Venezuelan pilot initially relies on his passive infrared search and track system, trying to avoid detection, but impatience takes over. He activates his fire control radar and locks onto an E-2D Hawkeye, the airborne command center of the carrier group. On the pilot's head-up display, a red box frames the American aircraft. Under normal rules of engagement, that is an unmistakably hostile act. It gives the American commander full legal authority to respond immediately, but no order comes. Because the Americans are not trying to start a shooting conflict, they are trying to win without one. The Venezuelan pilot believes his radar gives him the advantage. What he does not realize is that his radar also turns him into a beacon, broadcasting his exact position, heading, and intent to anyone listening. And one aircraft is listening very closely, an EA-18G Growler. This is not just a fighter jet. It is a weaponized supercomputer built to dominate the electromagnetic spectrum. The Growler does not launch missiles first. It launches data. What follows is a non-lethal yet devastating electronic assault. It does not merely jam the Su-30's radar. It overwhelms the pilot's senses. The system floods his displays with thousands of false returns, creating the illusion of an entire formation of American aircraft approaching from every direction. The single clear target, the Hawkeye, disappears into a blizzard of digital confusion. In an instant, the K-31 missile becomes nothing more than dead weight under the wing. Then comes the final psychological checkmate. While the Growler blinded the flankers, two FA-18 Super Hornets approached with their own radars switched off, guided in silently by the distant Hawkeye. They closed in from the Su-30's blind spots, completely undetected. Only after the Growler's attack is complete do the Hornets briefly switch their radars on. Inside the Venezuelan cockpit, the radar warning receiver does not simply alert, it screams. A sharp, continuous tone signals an immediate, unavoidable missile lock at point-blank range. The pilot turns his head to the left. There, just beyond his wingtip, an American Super Hornet appears. Its pilot gives a slow, deliberate nod. The AIM-9X Sidewinder mounted beneath the wing is already tracking the heat from the Venezuelan jet's engine. No shots are fired, no words are spoken, but the message is unmistakable. We saw you. We shut you down. This is over. The Venezuelan pilot breaks away. This is not a tactical repositioning. It is a clear admission that the advantage is gone. Inside the cockpit, the sharp warning tone fades, replaced by an eerie silence. Moments earlier, he believed he was in control, backed by advanced Russian-built equipment and the initiative of first contact. In the next instant, he found himself completely exposed, outmaneuvered, outread, and spared only because the other side chose restraint. Back at Venezuelan Naval Command, the confusion is just as intense. Their displays, which once showed a clear picture of the American fleet, are now flooded with conflicting and unreliable signals. Their submarine, once their strongest hidden asset, has gone quiet. Not because it remains concealed, but because it no longer has options. Their fighter aircraft, the pride of their air arm, have been left without clarity, without targeting confidence, and without control of the situation. The carefully built legal and military pressure campaign has been taken apart step by step, and all of it without a single casualty. Analysts in Caracas will spend months studying what happened, and eventually they will understand the real problem. The Americans never played the same game. While Venezuela focused on ships, submarines, and aircraft as separate pieces on a visible board, the U.S. Navy was operating across a far more complex battlefield, one shaped by data, signals, coordination, and control of the electromagnetic spectrum. They will inevitably ask the unanswered question, what would have happened if the pilot had actually launched the Kh-31? The answer is harsh. A missile already cut off from reliable guidance by the Growler's electronic attack would have entered the fight at a severe disadvantage. Within moments, it likely would have been intercepted by the carrier group's layered defensive systems. And what followed after that could have changed the entire crisis in ways Venezuela was not prepared to face. That is the deeper lesson for Caracas. It was never just about hardware. It was about dimension. Buying advanced platforms gets you into the arena. Making them function in a contested electronic environment is what determines whether they matter at all. They arrived expecting a contest of platforms. Instead, they encountered an opponent operating through physics, timing, networking, and precision. The USS Gerald R. Ford never changed course. It moved through the so-called restricted zone as if it were open water, because under international law, it was. The United States prevailed not by ignoring the rules, but by reinforcing them with such overwhelming technological confidence that Venezuela's only real option was to pull its own pieces off the board. The signal sent in the Caribbean that day was cold, precise, and impossible to misread. You can posture with ships, you can pressure with aircraft, but you cannot bluff sonar. And you cannot outplay a superpower that commands not only the sea, but the invisible energy that now defines modern military power. The Venezuelan ships and aircraft returned to port without visible damage, but with something far more sobering, proof of how wide the gap had become. Their crews were not broken. They were simply shown that the battlefield had evolved beyond what they were prepared for. They came back not with the story of a clash they lost, but of one they were never truly able to enter. And even for the Americans, the moment carried its own strategic cost. Every encounter of this kind reveals patterns, procedures, and valuable electronic or acoustic signatures to anyone watching closely. For Caracas, perhaps the most unsettling realization of all is this. What felt like a national-level crisis for them may have been, for the crew of the USS Ford, a routine and highly disciplined operation. Another demonstration of integrated capability executed with precision and calm. But this was never only about Venezuela. What happened in the Caribbean was a message sent on a much broader frequency. The real audience was in Beijing, in Moscow, in Tehran, in an era of gray zone competition where countries probe limits without crossing openly into full-scale conflict. The United States demonstrated exactly how it responds. Not with clumsy overreaction, not with uncontrolled force, but with layered, invisible, overwhelming technological superiority. The lesson was aimed at any adversary who believes clever tactics alone are enough to outmaneuver the U.S. Navy. The message was simple. America's response begins long before any missile is launched. It starts in the electromagnetic spectrum, the domain where modern contests are often decided before the first visible move is ever made. And that may be the clearest insight of all. This encounter revealed the core philosophy behind 21st century American naval power. It is not about the strength of one platform. It is about the unbreakable synergy of the network. The Su-30 may be a formidable aircraft. The Type 209 may be a difficult submarine to track. But alone, they remain isolated assets. The U.S. Navy, by contrast, operates as a fully connected system. Through integrated structures like Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter-Air, the P-8, the Growler, the destroyers, and the Hawkeye do not act as separate units. They function as one coordinated intelligence and response architecture. The Hawkeye becomes the eyes for a Super Hornet, flying silently. The destroyer's sonar picture contributes to the P-8's targeting logic. Each platform strengthens the others. It is less a fleet of separate machines and more a single organism of steel, sensors, software, and human decision-making working in total alignment. It is the difference between owning a powerful computer and controlling the entire network. And yet, even this ecosystem is only as effective as the people behind it. The most important element of American sea power is not the ship, not the aircraft, not the missile. It is training. The real advantage is the mind of a commander able to process legal risk, tactical movement, and electronic conditions in seconds, and still make the right call. It is the instinct of a pilot who can establish total control with one pass and a single nod. The enormous investment in hardware means very little without the thousands of hours invested in human judgment, discipline, and repetition. That is the true return on investment. Yes, a carrier strike group is enormously expensive, but its purpose is not only to prevail in conflict. Its purpose is to create such a powerful sphere of influence, so advanced, so coordinated, so difficult to challenge, that many conflicts lose momentum before they ever fully begin. In the end, no shots were fired, no international law was broken, no battle dominated the headlines. And that may be the strongest statement of power of all. Because in modern conflict, the most decisive success is often the one your opponent does not fully understand until the outcome is already sealed. Sometimes the loudest message is the one delivered in complete silence. What do you think? Should the US have acted more aggressively, or was this the smartest possible response? Share your thoughts in the comments.